You heard about Operation Gotham Shield. This is something which has been talked about off and on here for, I don't know, the idea of it, the nuclear strike on New York City as well as on Washington, D.C., and I think someplace else, maybe in New Jersey. It's an idea that's been bandied about for a number of years. What would happen if there was an actual nuclear strike? How would the government respond to it? What if the government had a drill on how to respond to it? And what if it was so realistic that we couldn't tell the difference between the drill and the real thing? And then you start asking all these other questions when you start seeing that some very strange coincidences have happened with some of these national drills. For instance, did you know that just a day before the school shootings in, 2011, 2012, that they had a large-scale exercise on what would happen if there was a school shooting, in which they had the same movement of police and all of these things just literally days before the shooting occurred. Same thing happened with 9/11, and I kid you not, they actually had a drill about what would happen if hijackers took an airplane into the Twin Towers. You cannot make this stuff up. And now, part of it has to do with the fact that a good intelligence agent or a good, it's anybody who's good in military intelligence kind of thinking, is going to be thinking about the possibilities of what would happen if a bad guy did this or that. What would happen if? I mean, this is part of what I did when I was in Bosnia. We visited some of the different bases and basically gave the commanders of those bases the run-through of, well, this is what we think is wrong with your security here at your base. Somebody could easily drive through here and blow up something there. Your perimeter is weak over here. These are the kind of things that we thought about in order to help the military commander make his base safer. And each of these commands, had different reactions to us. In some cases, they kind of blew us off. They're like, yeah, you're thinking too crazy. But what was it? It was June of 96. There was the bombing attack in Saudi Arabia. And all of a sudden, everything that we were saying about how you need to upgrade your security in the case of a truck bomb, all of a sudden everything we were saying was gold. And they rearranged everything and really made life complicated for the people that were on the bases. And I'm very sorry about that, but that's what you do when you're implementing security based on projected possibilities. It also makes me wonder about just how close these things are to happening, because usually the intelligence community is only about a half a step ahead or behind the people that they're trying to go against. Now, this story that I saw at the Dollar Vigilante, let me give you the address for that, just so you can look it up for yourself, dollarvigilante.com, talked about how the people in the United States have been subject to this sense of fear for decades, going all the way back to the 1950s and 60s with that whole duck and cover campaign. Some of you may actually remember doing a duck and cover exercise where here you are in a school getting under a desk as if somehow that's going to protect you from a nuclear blast. It wouldn't, but it does get you subject to this idea of being in fear. It gets you trained to respond to the government to tell you, get under your desk. Even though that's not going to do anything to save you, it trains you in this sense of fear, and it trains you in this sense of obeying orders. So, when we have a major exercise scheduled for today and tomorrow, it's happening this week, in which they're talking about a nuclear explosion in New York and in Washington, and I think in one other place, New Jersey, simulating a 10,000-ton nuke blast. You have to ask yourself, is this going to actually happen? And whether it does or does not, do you have the wherewithal not to succumb to fear? That's the question asked by the Dollar Vigilante about not being afraid. I think it's very good. It's worth reading, and I think it's very worth thinking about. If something like this does happen, what would your reaction be? Do not give in to fear. That's the worst possible thing for any of us. That's what I've got today. If you have a suggestion for me, remember the phone lines are now open. I would love to hear from you. I'm usually available sometime around noon-ish Alaska time. If you want to give us a call, you'll find the website right there, radiofreespeech.com, with a link to the phone number so you can call the studio and we'll chat. Thanks.